Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Jacob Wile, too.
And welcome to this week's DuckTales recap. Today we're talking about From the Confidential Case Files of Agent 22. And my God, Jacob, I don't know. This is at least a top 3 for me.
I would definitely agree. This is definitely one of the best ones you've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, after last week, we talked about it. We kind of hashed it out. It wasn't bad. It was just kind of like, yeah, it had some interesting things going on structurally. It had some fun things going on with the nephews and their individual characteristics.
It was okay at best.
This week, it's just kind of like, oh, yes. Oh, this is...
This definitely takes the ambitious storytelling and definitely does something much better with it, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I gotta admit, my only issue with this episode is we really don't get much outside of Scrooge and Webby and Beakley, which is fine. It's their episode for sure. However, Jacob, I don't know. I'm kind of like, I know that Dragon fell out of the show because of the big push on Webby, and I'm kind of feeling some Webby fatigue. You know how much I love the concept of Webby this time around, the whole reinvention of her. I don't know, Jacob. I'm kind of just feeling like it's just like, hey, kids, you like Mabel Pines? Well, this is the new Mabel Pine. She even has a grappling hook. I don't know. What do you think, Jacob? That's the only thing. It's like, it's not that she's a bad character. I just feel like at this point, okay, well, let's just address it right now. Donald is literally in a cupboard.
Yep.
Like, no, I'm sorry, Jacob. That might have been a funny gag. It was a funny gag, but I gotta say, at this point, watching the intro every week and seeing Donald in action, I'm just like, you're lying to me, show. You're lying to me. Like, I have less and less hope each week that Donald is actually going to be used. I don't know, Jacob. That continues to be my one sticking point with this show that I can't really forgive.
I didn't really mind it that much.
I mean, like I said, on its own, it's a funny gag, and it might even be a commentary on how, maybe the creators kind of acknowledge that, like, yeah, we should be doing a little bit more with Donald, and this is kind of like the best we got for him right now because this episode's so strong with the other characters. Here's my thing, Jacob. I was highly disappointed that we didn't at least get a cameo of Donald in the flashbacks.
Well, he probably wasn't even. He's probably young at that point, considering the age.
God.
I'll be back.
All right. Sorry about that, folks. But yeah, I guess with this episode, the brilliant thing about it is the animation style changes. We go from the flashback to the present, and we get kind of this Nolan-esque jump between the two time periods. Hello?
I swear Google hates me.
Yeah, it's just like your God, Jacob. We've already established this. It's no big deal. You don't have to be self-conscious about it. All right.
All right.
So I was talking about the structure, Jacob. Let's talk about the structure.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. What were you gonna say? What were you gonna bring up? I'm sorry.
My point on Donald was that, like, because he probably would have been too young at that point in the flashback.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess that's true because that in the flashback, Scrooge is like Donald's age currently, right? Wouldn't you say so?
I mean, considering Scrooge looked like that during the gold rush, it's hard to tell.
Well, yeah, fair point. Fair point. I keep forgetting about that. That's so weird that he's like over 100 years old.
Well, it's not far off from his comic story, but anyways, like, I mean, like, Beakley looks vastly different, so that's my point. I'm like, probably why Donald was just too young at that point.
Yeah,
like,
that's
even
fair.
Von Drake looks a bit younger.
Yes, and of course, Jacob, we have to talk about Von Drake. Oh my God! I mean, Yeah, I mean, he wasn't in the episode for long, but my God, they got his characteristics down. Like, they nailed him, and I'm like, oh, it makes me so happy that Von Drake is in the DuckTales universe.
And they actually got Corey Burton to do his voice again.
Of course they did. Who better but Corey Burton to do a Paul Preece character? Come on now. All right, Jacob. The other big thing that people are talking about, I guess we can talk about this, not to bury the lead on it, and then kind of circle back to the structure of the episode. Gummi Bears.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I noticed when they went to the auction that then they noticed the mystical creatures. Like, wait, that kind of looks like the Gummy Bears. And then later when Black Heron said bouncing here and there everywhere, it's like it's totally the Gummy Bears.
Yeah. So here's the thing, Jacob. I love the fact that Disney, I feel like Disney is playing the long game here. I feel like eventually the Disney Channel is going to be the new Disney Afternoon, and I love it because I think the big thing is like a Darkwing Duck spinoff at this point is maybe inevitable. Like there's so much love and hype around Darkwing Duck right now.
They were much shushing.
Mm-hmm. And then from that point, we've got Gummi Bear set up. Tailspin wouldn't surprise me at all. So really, those four, Gummi Bears, DuckTales, Darkwing Duck, and Tailspin, like all four of those would be a great lineup right there. I'd cover all four of those shows.
Especially considering that in one of the upcoming episodes, there's like supposed to be appearance by Don Carnage.
Oh yes, I keep forgetting about that. Yeah. And so then
that could be interesting.
I don't know, Goof Troop. Meh, you know, Goof Troop can kind of stay, you know.
Well, Spoonerville was mentioned in the first episode.
Well, that's true. That's true. You're right. So Goof Troop is technically in the universe. Oh man. What about gargoyles? Is there any gargoyles connection we could draw from all this?
I have no idea. I mean, I don't think I've seen any yet, and
It's like Goliath just pops up in Scrooge's vault at some point.
I mean, it'd be pretty cool to like see him like as Easter eggs on Scrooge's house.
Mm-hmm.
Or in some Scottish castle, because technically the series did start in Scotland.
True.
Like I can just picture it. On Scrooge's old house. There's the cursed gargoyles.
All right.
All right, moving on.
So let's talk about the structure of the episode, which of course was that kind of great, Jacob, dare I say, Nolan-esque kind of jump between the past and present.
It was pretty interesting to see, at least. I think others have done it, but Nolan is probably the most famous utilizer of that technique in recent memory.
Nolan doesn't just use that technique. Nolan is just like, time is a music box, and I will conduct a symphony. But I digress.
Either way, I did like the unique structure of it, how it showed the parallels between the past and the present.
And the animation style, correct me if I'm wrong, Jacob, it looks like it's a little bit more in line with the original DuckTales show, a little bit, but with that kind of grainy sepia filter to it.
Yeah, I kind of noticed that.
Like, I feel like at the very least are a little smoother.
It's like I think it seems like the quality is becoming more consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was definitely intriguing to see all this happen.
Any strong takes from you on how they represented Ludwig Von Drake? I know we already kind of passed that up, but I just want to make sure we give Ludwig his due.
No, I mean they definitely captured his mannerisms down to a T.
I also really like the idea that Ludwig Von Drake is this kind of like government agent guy who's like giving them the assignments. That's a really cool wrinkle in that character.
And is someone isn't in charge of shush nonetheless. I mean, I wonder if he still has his scientific intelligence that he's best known for.
Oh, I'm sure he does. It wouldn't be Ludwig Von Drake without that.
I mean, I just hope we actually see that side of Von Drake sometime in the future.
We'll
I
see.
guess they kind of already have.
I wonder how soon it is until we see Von Drake in the present.
I mean, I guess they kind of already have Gyro for the wacky inventor type, so that's probably why they relegated him to this.
Yeah, but I don't know. They could be building something with him. I mean, you never know with this series what they're building up towards.
It's definitely a unique take on the character, though, for sure. But his mannerisms are totally on point.
Mm-hmm.
Like the increasing exasperation, and everything.
So speaking of the structure, I really, really like how the locations that they're going to, it is very Nolan-esque in that way, where it's like the same locations will be used with the two different time periods and will kind of contrast the way it was between the two time periods. I mean, like, I would say this is, the more and more we talk about it, Jacob, if not the best, this is definitely the most ambitious episode of DuckTales, like even above the pilot, I feel like.
I definitely have to agree with you. I mean, like, it's kind of like a Nolan meets James Bond-esque style movie.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you know me, I like, as much as I like the Huey, Dewey, and Louie episodes and the character episodes, like, I don't mind stuff like what we got last week nearly as much as I mind Townie episodes from Steven Universe. People that watch that show will know exactly what I'm talking about. But I digress. I like all facets of the show, but really the bread and butter of the show is the adventure element. That's what this show kind of cuts its teeth on. So, that's what my favorite. I mean, I guess to me, my two favorites are Mount Everest in this episode, and then McMystery, McDuck, McMander is kind of my favorite character-centric episode. But definitely the two definitive best episodes of the series, I would say, are both the ones that hit the adventure element the most.
If only, I mean, they really need to like find a good balance between like having an adventure episode with character elements built in.
Well, you see, that's why I almost hesitate to call this the best of the series, because I feel like Mount Everest did the character stuff a little bit better. Like there was stuff with all three of the nephews, there was stuff with Webby, there was stuff with Launchpad. You know what I mean? Like, whereas this is just exclusively Webby, Beakley, and Scrooge. And don't get me wrong, it's a good character piece, and all three of them get time to shine. And I feel like all three of them, hell, even Webby, we get a few extra layers to her out of this, even though she's gotten a ton of screen time so far. Definitely we learn a ton about Beakley. Like, this is a huge Beakley episode. So all that stuff is valuable. I just feel like Mount Everest, kind of the characters got divided up a bit better. So that's why I'm kind of on the fence. This is more ambitious than Mount Everest, but Mount Everest probably had a little bit stronger in the writing department.
I'm not going to disagree with that.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. So what do you think of the Webby issue? The fact that we've been getting so much of Webby throughout the season, and it's pretty clear that, honestly, at this point, it's pretty clear that season 1 really is the Webby show by all intents and purposes.
I mean, the last few episodes like didn't have that much of her, so just like, I mean, like other than like the last episode we had with this Day of the Only Child, there hasn't really been that much of her in those episodes either.
Right.
So I guess for here,
but you do remember that in Day of the Only Child, she was pretty problematic story-wise.
Yeah, we discussed that during that episode.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I'm saying, like, like, she hasn't got to the point where when she pops up, I don't enjoy seeing her, but it's kind of just like, as you know, Jacob, my favorite character at this point, besides Donald, who they hardly use, so it's kind of like a moot point with Donald. But I love Dewey. Like, I want to see more Dewey. I love Dewey's weird, quirky habits and hobbies, and like his weird passion for artistic projects and stuff like that. So give me more of that. I don't know. Spread the love around.
Especially like more. I'd like to see more of his adventurous relationship with Scrooge.
Mm-hmm. All right.
As we mentioned before, all three triplets have like similar facets with Scrooge, so it'd be interesting to see like them interact more in a way.
And for what it's worth, all three of the triplets have, as we've kind of discussed ad nauseum, they have gotten the proper development. You know, when the show first started, I feel like it was a little harder to distinguish the three of them, like especially Dewey and Louie. But as we've gone forward, they've definitely all three kind of gone, you know, I'm sorry, Jacob. I hate to keep getting hung up on this point. Donald is literally in a cupboard. How dare you?
I thought that was funny. I didn't really think
I get
much
that
of
it's
it.
a gag, and it's a funny gag, but it's kind of like indicative of the way that they're treating Donald as on the show as a whole.
I know. I mean, I'd like to see more Donald too.
Man, what can I say? Donald Duck is my all-time favorite Disney character. This is wrong.
Trust me, I'd like to see more of him too.
I mean, they better be building up to something epic with Donald, is all I'm saying.
Hopefully.
Oh, man. I'm sorry, man. I don't mean to get on my high horse about that. It's just... It's really just like, yeah, it's a funny gag, but guys, come on. Like, let's at least, I don't know, let's at least acknowledge him a little bit more. Let's at least give him something to do. Anyway.
Yeah, I understand that. Should we talk about the villain?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I'm glad you mentioned that, because the villain was a lot of fun. The Black Heron. Yeah. This was kind of straight out of like the Rocky and Bullwinkle kind of Jay Ward class of villains, I thought, Jacob. Very snidely, like a female Snidely Whiplash in a way. I had a lot of fun with her.
And voiced by the one and only April Winchell.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it actually kind of has a connection to the. It actually kind of has a weird connection to the whole Gummi Bears of it all, considering her father was in the show.
Right.
As
you've already mentioned, she has that whole bouncing here and there and everywhere, mass destruction beyond compare.
I was like, at the point, I was like, yep, totally.
I see what
I was like, yep, totally Gummi Bears.
I thought it was maybe Disneyland will bring back the little motorboat ride for Freakazoid, because when that closed, it was themed to Gummi Bears, so Freakazoid can have his little motorboats back.
Motorboats.
Not the little motorboats. Oh, and Jacob, another thing we have to bring up is, okay, I wish that we would have seen the cane used as a pogo stick with all the fancy cane powers that we get in this episode, but at the very least, what?
That I was kind of hoping for that.
Yeah, but at the very least, I'm glad that we at least kind of make an acknowledgement that Scrooge McDuck's cane holds some kind of power, and that's a cool connection to the games in its own right. All I want is an episode where they go to the moon and we get a remix of the moon level music.
Oh, yeah, that's a great theme.
All right.
Yeah, I just really think the integration of everything in the past and present and how it all flowed together was really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely an episode of DuckTales that I was like, last week was just kind of like, all right, I'm watching 22 minutes of a cartoon, and it's a good cartoon, but you know, it's just that. It's just kind of a kids show, you know what I mean? It's nothing really special beyond that. This episode, I was like, oh, okay, this is Disney at top form. This is kind of like Gravity Falls level quality right here.
It's definitely one of the more ambitious ones. It just makes me wish that they were more ambitious this often.
Yeah, like I said, I think the closest I can compare this episode to would be Mount Everest, but Mount Everest probably had a better selection of characters. I feel like I'm repeating myself at this point, so we should probably move on. Any other things you want to say about this one?
I mean, we already discussed the Gummy Bears connection, the villain.
I love that literally the villain is after gummy berry juice. Like, that's gummy berry juice is like the main MacGuffin of the whole damn episode. that just makes me happy.
I never even watched the original Gummy Bear shows because actually
neither have I really. I mostly know the theme song, but
yeah, same here. Like, it was a little before my time.
But you know what? I would watch a reboot of it if it came out, because as far as I know, it did have some interesting lore behind it. And I just love the gimmicky idea that Michael Eisner literally made the show because, hey, my kids like gummy bears, make a gummy bear show.
Yeah, well, and it goes to show that just because it's based on like something like that doesn't necessarily mean it turns out to be a bad show either. I mean, heck, this is a show. This is a show about ducks going on adventures around the world.
But god damn it, it's those ducks are rooted in comic book history, Jacob.
Oh heck yeah!
All right.
So much so that they even inspired Indiana Jones.
Okay, so let's see, folks. Next week, we've got an episode that I've been waiting for quite a while. We have Who is Gizmo Duck? Lin-Manuel Miranda?
Yes.
Episode 19 also sounds very intriguing. It's called The Other Bin of Scrooge McDuck.
I wonder what that's all about. Like,
maybe that's where we go to the Scottish mansion and see the gargoyles.
Then I'd love to see at least. I'd love to see if like a passing mention to gargoyles, because that was like another staple of the afternoon.
Oh yeah. And then Bonkers is just kind of like a homeless bum on the streets. Oh god. Okay, and then episode 20 is Sky Pirates in the Sky. That title is very Miyazaki-esque, if I do say so myself. When I think of Miyazaki, I think of Sky Pirates.
You mean like Porco Rosso?
Yeah, like Porco Rosso, because Porco Rosso is my favorite Miyazaki movie, but I digress.
You need to watch more Miyazaki movies.
What, me?
I said I need to watch more.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I was like, I've seen the whole canon, sir.
I haven't even seen Spirited Away.
Because my favorite Miyazaki movie is a low-key movie. I love that Porco Rosso is low-key.
I mean, I know, but I said, hey, I haven't even watched Spirited Away yet, so that tells you how much I've seen.
Spirited Away is so good.
It tells you how much Miyazaki I've seen. I haven't even seen like the other stuff in Miyazaki, so that tells you how much.
Yeah, you need to get on that, man. I actually got on that like I think 2015 or so, like 2014, 2015. I watched the entire Miyazaki catalog. That was a fun summer. It was like over a summer. I like rented them all from the video store, Jacob, like an OG. But I digress. All right, any last words on DuckTales?
No, I will say it again that this episode is probably the best one in quite some time. Like, it's definitely adventurous, ambitious, with even a bit of a spy take, which really wasn't seen in the original series that much.
Mm-hmm. All right, folks, thanks for watching, and tune in next week where we go here and there and everywhere because we are the Gummi Bears.
Woo-hoo.